Hello runners and welcome to another episode of IRUN4ULTRA's podcast. Ever since he made it onto the ultra trail scene, Hayden Hawks has been making waves. He won the Speedgoat 50k championship, the capstone 50k championship, holds the current course record for the Zion Traverse, which is super tough, to name just a few. Hayden has had a long relationship with running and seems to have an even longer career all set in front of him. In the ultra trail world, he's already an established name, and we are super stoked to have him on our show today. So let's not waste any more time and get chatting. Hey Hayden, how you doing?
Good, how you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for giving us, your precious time. I know that you're busy and you probably have a packed schedule, and with the new year starting, I'm sure you have a lot on your plate. So let's get straight into it. You've had a long relationship with running, Hayden. We want to know about how it all started before anything else.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've always kind of loved running. It's always something that's kind of been with me throughout my whole life. My mom runs. She's actually run numerous Ironmans. She's done many marathons. And so running's kind of been in my family just a little bit. But I actually didn't get serious in running till I was about 16 years old. When I was younger, I played many sports. Literally, I was as active as I could possibly be, playing every sport that you could possibly think of. I loved playing basketball. I loved playing baseball. But then when I got about 16 years old, I actually ended up getting cut from my baseball team, and it was like devastating, because here I was supposed to be the next like Major League Baseball player in my mind. I was going to play for the Boston Red Sox. I was going to have this long Major League Baseball career, and then I get cut from my high school team, and I'm like, no, the world has come to an end. But it didn't. It actually brought even better things into my life. I had a friend who was running cross country. He invited me to come out. He was also running a marathon at the same time, so he invited me to run the marathon, and I just started like running with him for fun and training for this marathon. And then I went to cross country practice, and I showed up the first day, and I kind of thought like, I don't know about this. I was in my basketball shorts and my basketball shoes, but I've always been super competitive, and so I went out and I just started pushing it with the top guys on the team. And by the time I got to the end of practice, I was like sick. I was throwing up all over the place and just like completely just destroyed. But I made it. I made it with the top guys. And I remember the cross country coach coming up to me after and being like, "Hey man, like you have a future in running. Like if you want it, you have it. Like, I would like to invite you to come back out and try this." And he's like, I think you could be on our varsity team this year. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. But I went home, talked to my parents, and they encouraged me. And then I started just going back out every day and waking up, at 5 a.m. to go to practice so I could be there at 6. And I just started getting better and better as I started running. I didn't end up running that marathon because the coach was like, hey, you should focus on cross country. And so that's what I did. And by the end of that year, I was the second fastest guy on the team. And then throughout high school, I kind of worked my way up till my senior year. I was a state champion in track and field, and got a scholarship to run collegiately. So yeah, that's kind of how it all began. I grew up in St. George, Utah. And so all this was taking place there. We have many trails in St. George. So
it's such a perfect setting.
Yeah, it was just perfect. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better place to grow up, better opportunities. It just kind of seemed like it just kind of worked out. I never would have thought I would have been a professional runner, but I'm so glad that I ended up getting cut from the baseball team. And I'm a firm believer that, things happen for a reason.
And it's so interesting that you mentioned this, and I'll stay away from the word failure. But what a lot of people consider failure, I mean, it's how you take it and, see what other avenues. The most successful people in the world look back more at the points when they found themselves at the lowest and how they came out of it. So it's really good to hear that even your story comes from a place, because if everything was on an upward trajectory, it would be an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah, for sure. I've had many failures in my life, and it seems like the failures have always led to greater things that I didn't even think, were there. But somehow, as I just kept working hard and I kept faith that things were going to work out, it just ends up working out, and it ends up working out for the best.
That's so true. So, Hayden, you've talked a little bit, about that in your family. Your mother's a runner. You have family members who are runners. So, how much, like this is the question of nature versus nurture. How much of your abilities would you attribute to your to your genetics, and how much of it would you attribute to hard work and put, like making things happen?
Yeah, I would be definitely very arrogant if I said that I don't have talent, because I do have talent. I've definitely been, I guess blessed with great, I guess, physical abilities. My parents are athletes, both of them. My mom runs. She's always been like the hardest working person I've ever met in my life. Whatever she puts her mind to, she always accomplishes it. And so she's really taught me, the meaning of just being determined and setting your mind to something and having goals in life. My dad also, he was an athlete, through high school. He actually almost played college baseball. He was just a very good athlete his whole life. And he's always just been an extremely hard worker, providing for our family, and always instilled that hard work ethic in me. And so, yeah, I have been blessed with talent and abilities from my parents and, from my genetics. But I also think I've worked really hard, and I think there's many people in life that have many talents and many abilities, but if they don't put the work in, then those talents aren't going to show. And so, yeah, I think we all have talents and abilities in some aspect of our life, but if we don't put the work in, you're never going to be able to tell how much talent you truly have. And so I would say, maybe 50-50 really, like, yeah, I've definitely worked my butt off to be in the situation that I am now. A lot of sacrifice. I remember going through high school and through college, and I would be invited by friends to go out, and have fun in one night, or do things, and it was like, no, I have a hard training run I have to do the next day, and so I would go to bed early instead. It wasn't all the time. I definitely like to have fun, and I still have fun, but there's been a lot of sacrifice in my life, but I think that's what it takes to be a professional athlete. Is you do need some sacrifice. You do need to be fully dedicated and 100% committed to being the best, athlete that you can possibly be. So.
And you are very right. I mean, natural ability and athletic abilities have nothing to do if you don't have the work ethic and the commitment to put into it. So what would you say gave you that in life? I know you said your mom's a very hardworking, but paint a picture for us growing up. What was it like growing up in, the beautiful surrounding that you were in, and where did you get that really sense of determination and hard work from?
Yeah, I mean, I think a little bit of it has just been ingrained in me. Like, I don't know what it is in life. It's always just, I've always had this, like, I don't know if it's like a competition, like competitiveness about me, but I always try to make things a competition, and it's always like, I always want to be the best. I'll always just strive to be like the best at everything I've done, and sometimes, even now, I have these competitions with my wife, and it's kind of funny, we kind of play, these games with each other, and my brother, I have these competitions with him, but also, growing up, like I said, my parents taught me that work ethic. I remember sometimes, I'd come home from school and all I wanted to do was like watch some TV or something, and I'd sit on the couch get some food and sit down and watch TV. And my dad would come home from work and he'd be like, he'd sit down with me and he'd like, okay, so what did you do today? And I'd tell him, I went to school, I did this, I did that. And he said, well, what else have you done? Like, what kind of work have you done today? What have you done to be a productive citizen in life? And I was like, I don't know. And so like, yeah, some days I would get out there and I'd work and I'd be able to tell my dad, this is what I did today, and be so proud and try to make him proud. And, it was just a lot of things growing up that my parents taught me to really just try to be a hard worker, and to get out there and try to be productive, and don't just sit around and watch TV. And so I rarely did that growing up. I don't remember watching too much TV. I was always outside, always doing something, always trying to build something or go ride my bike and go off the jumps or build some jumps for my bike, or times when I would just go, there was a big mountain outside my house called the Red Mountain. And I would go and hike to the top and down just for fun, or just to say, hey, I put in some work today. And it was always just like this thing growing up of trying to just be a hard worker.
I mean, and you've talked about your competitive nature and your desire to be a hard worker. So, what about competitiveness do you enjoy the most? Beating other people or setting challenges for yourself, or perhaps a bit of both?
Uh, I mean, to be honest, yeah, there's a little bit of both, but it's more setting the challenges for myself. Being able to go out there and conquer a course or get a specific time in a race, that I've been working so hard for. Like for instance, I'm getting ready for a race in Spain called Trans Gran Canaria.
Yes.
And I've set these goals for this race. And it's really just motivated me, to where I get out every day and I put in the work and I'm really working my butt off because I want to accomplish these goals, and I've set a time goal that I want to run this race, and that I want to win the race and I want to set a course record. And so and I honestly, like, I am not gonna be like, I want to do it so bad that it just motivates me and fires me up every single day to get out there and push myself so I can accomplish these goals. And usually when I set these goals and I push towards them, I accomplish them or I get pretty close. And I think it's just this ingrained determination in me to really challenge myself and beat myself. So
And you obviously have a history of setting course records and FKTs and, like, and for really tough ones. And you come through the gate blazing right from the get go. So that's obviously very prevalent, in how you run. So we know that on the outside, in your head, what's going on when,
yeah.
during the run, and when you do hit those walls, how do you break through them?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't think that I'm going out that fast. And I think Zach Miller and Jim and all these guys that people think go out super fast would say the same thing. People look at it and they're like, wow, they're blazing, they're going out super, super fast. But in our heads, we're going out comfortable. We're going out at what we have trained for and what we think is possible. We set these times, these goals, we train, we try to hit these certain splits and stuff in our training. And when we hit those and we accomplish those things, it tells us in our head, hey, we can run this certain time in a race. And so I go out at that pace, in a race, and that pace might seem really fast to some people, but in my head, I think it's completely possible. I'm comfortable, and I know that I can hold that pace. And it doesn't always happen because sometimes, it's ultra marathon. You never know what's going to happen in an ultra marathon. Food situations, different things can happen. And sometimes that's when blowups happen. But I don't think the blowup is happening because of the pace, because I know that I can hit those paces. And so in my head, I'm completely confident, that I can go out there and I can run these times. And it happens a lot, you know, more often than not. But like I said, it's ultra marathon. You never know what's going to take place. And so, you know, but yeah, we do all face walls, you know, and it's not to say that I don't face walls, and I know that I'm going to hit walls in these races because I know I'm going to, but I've done it enough times in practice and fought through those walls that when those walls come in races, I'm prepared to fight through them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think a lot of people realize sometimes that we sometimes put ourselves through pain and situations in our training that are actually harder than the actual race, because we know that if we can fight through these hard situations in practice, then we'll be able to do it in the race. And so that's how I feel about things is I do workouts that are harder than race day. And that way it makes the race days not necessarily easy, but easier.
That's actually a really good tip for those people out there too. It's don't go conservative in the practice. Like challenge yourself more than you would on race day. So that's actually a really good tip for our listeners out there. And so, I mean, we know about your competitive side and how goal oriented you are. So we have to talk about your very first 50 miler where you duked it out with Zach Miller, and it's quite, I mean, it was very dramatic, and it was, amazing. Talk to us about that experience, because what an experience it must have been.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience, and I gained a respect for Zach Miller in that race that I will carry with me for the rest of my career. You know, we became really good friends, and it's cool how competition brings people together. You know, because yeah, we're definitely not friends during the race. You know, we're fighting and trying to beat each other and the whole entire race. But after the race, we can sit down, we can talk, we can have fun, and we become really good friends over these really tough competitions. Yeah, but going into North Face, I had no clue what I was getting myself into. You know, the longest race I'd ever ran was a 50K, and I'd only done one of those before the race. And so I had no clue, but all I knew was that this was the most competitive race supposedly in North America for 50 miles, if not the world. And I knew that it was going to be a hard race. I knew that I wanted to be in that field. I knew that I wanted to be running with the best athletes in the world in ultra marathon. And so that's why I signed up for the race. I had no clue how to train for it. I had no clue, what it was going to entail, how I was going to feel at 30 miles or 40 miles. But I had confidence that if I trained hard enough, if I went into the race and I had confidence that I would be able to finish the race, and that I would be able to win the race if I had a good day. And so that's what I did is I went into that race and I was confident and not fearful. Even though I'd never been in that situation, I wasn't fearful. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people can learn is a lot of people fear, that next step up in ultra marathon, or they fear certain races, or they fear even running an ultra marathon. But don't fear. Just go into it, have fun, enjoy the experience, and realize that your mind and your body is a lot stronger than you think, and it can accomplish great things as long as you have put in the preparation before. And so that's how I felt going into it. And we had an epic duel. I was a little upset that I didn't win the race because it was so close.
And you're
But
competitive by nature.
yeah,
So.
exactly. But at the same time, I was happy with the performance because it was like, wow, I just ran 50 miles, and I just competed with, one of the best ultra marathoners in the world in my first 50-mile race. And it fired me up to come back the next year. The next year I took third, but I am fired up to go back again, and I will be hopefully going back in the near future. So
that, and you have a penchant for duels, right? Like you also had the Chucknut 50 with Max King. Do you think when you're
Yeah.
put in that kind of a situation, it drives you more? Do you like do you like having this in a duel, pretty much?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I mean, it makes us all run faster.
Hmm.
You know, we would have never ran the times that we ran if we weren't dueling with each other. And it makes the race exciting and interesting and you know, people love it. So, you know, it helps with the fans as well. But no, I really enjoy dueling with people. I really enjoy racing, you know, and when races are that close, it's a race. You know, that's what a race is supposed to be. A race is supposed to be a battle between one or two or three people, and that's what makes racing so exciting. Um, you know, and it helps. Like I've accomplished things in duels that I didn't even think were possible, and it's because when you're in a duel, all you are focused on is beating that person, and you don't think about the time or the pain or anything else. You're just thinking about one thing, and that's why I say your mind is so strong and you don't even realize it. If you can learn how to shut off the mind, you can do amazing things.
you you know, it's interesting because it's always interesting hearing people's experiences of their races and what we as audiences and fans watch and how we process things. So if I was to ask you, because if I was to ask you what's the most challenging race you have been in, what would you say that is?
Most challenging race. Let's see. Probably actually my blow up at Transvolcania was probably the hardest race I've ever been in. Just for the fact that, you know, it was so hard to finish that race. You know, I ran 50 kilometers pretty solid. You know, me and Tim Frericks were dueling it out at the beginning at the front of that race. And then I just had stomach issues, you know, and I couldn't keep anything in. I started cramping up really bad and I was just really struggling and I watched Tim run away from me and then I watched person after person pass me in that race. And there were points when I was sitting on, you know, I sat down on a rock because I was like completely wasted and I couldn't even like I couldn't I was throwing up everywhere and I was just like, am I going to finish this race? You know, should I drop out? What should I do? And in my mind it was like, you're not hurt, you're not injured, you're just cramped, you're just cramping and you're just sick, you know, but you're not hurt. Like nothing that you do now is going to make you not be able to train or do anything in the future. So it was like, well, I need to finish then, you know, and so I walked, you know, the last 13 miles of that race. It was a downhill too, and I couldn't do anything. I was walking a downhill, and you know, all these people that I knew were passing me, encouraging me, and helping me, and I was just so out of it and I just walked and I ended up finishing the race out of respect for the race, out of respect for the people running the race, and just out of respect for ultra marathon and what it can do to you. And so I could learn. And honestly, I learned so much from that race that helped me go later, you know, win CCC and win Lavaredo in these other races that I've been able to win after that blow up. And I'm so glad that I didn't drop out of that race because I learned so many things. And it was hard, but like we've talked about earlier, after hard things comes great things. If you learn how to learn from those hard times.
Absolutely. Yes, I mean everything it is you know, coming full circle with our conversation. It's so true. And so from the most challenging race to what would you say is your proudest, closest to your heart achievement when it comes to races?
Yeah, the easiest race, the most closest to my heart race was CCC for sure, winning that race. Um, Honestly, I finished that race and I had never felt better in my life. I finished that race and was like, wow, I could go run another 100K and be just fine. Like, why do I feel so good? And it was just everything clicked on that day, everything went right, nutrition, everything. And I just felt so good on that day and everything came together. And it was such an accomplished race because it came after that blow up at Transvolcania and that blow up at Worlds. I had 2 back-to-back races that were horrible. And I started questioning myself after Worlds. I was like, am I really made for this, And I ended up getting on Twitter one day and reading an article that somebody had wrote, which don't do this. It's not a good thing to look into things. But I read an article from somebody that said that I was going to be a burnout and that I was the next burnout in the sport, and that my performance at Transvolcania and at Worlds showed that I was the next burnout. And it really hurt me. It kind of like made me think like, oh, maybe I am a burnout. And then I quickly forgot about it and I started getting back to work and training. And then CCC happened and everything clicked and I won the race. And crossing that finish line, with the American flag in my hand and all those people cheering, it was just like, wow, like, this is amazing. Like this is so cool. And it just it showed me like, hey, you do have a future in this sport. You are good. You can accomplish great things. And yeah, I would just say that was my best performance and my greatest achievement so far because of what it meant to me.
And it sure proved that person who wrote that a very preemptive article wrong. So, so awesome.
Yeah.
So, you've touched upon this a little bit, but, we can't talk about the sport of ultras without talking further about, the community. Yes, you're in competition with these athletes, but it's also a very harmonious communal setting where everybody is looking out for each other. And it's this shared experience that everybody goes through and everybody knows how hard it is. So talk to us about that community and coming into the ultra community. How did your world open up to that and how has it made a difference?
Oh, I mean, the ultra community is amazing. Like, it's the best community I've ever been involved in. I absolutely love the community and the friendships that I've made. That's what makes this sport so great. Is yeah, winning races is awesome. It's fun. I really enjoy it. But the friendships that I've made over the years in ultra running is what really means the most to me. I've made friends from all over the world. I just got back from Gran Canaria in Spain. I was there for a month and I made so many friends, and people just coming up to me and congratulating me and we just connected. It was crazy. I was out there at a camp with Gediminas. Gediminas, me and he had a camp going on, and there was like 10, 12 people in the camp. I had no clue who any of these people were, but he asked me to come speak to him one night. So I went out and I spoke to him one night about my training and all these different things. And it was just so cool because I go into the house and it felt like I was coming home. Like it felt like I was surrounded by family. Everybody was just so cool. And it was like by the end of the night, we were like all best friends, and family. And it was just like, this is just so cool. Like, and people were inviting me to their houses and stuff. And, and like, hey, if you're ever in Poland, come to my house, you can stay here, I'll take you out on the trails. And it was just like how, like that just doesn't happen in this world. You just don't have people like that. But in ultra running and in this community, you do. And it's just so cool. I've had so much help from different runners over the years that have helped me become the athlete that I am today. If it wasn't for advice from, Magdalena Bolle, she's helped me tremendously. If Gediminas, he's given me advice. Timothy Olson, I was out there in Gran Canaria with him and he was giving me advice on stuff. I've had advice from so many people, Tim Tollefson, Zach Miller, and it's just so cool because we're competitors, we're competing against each other, but they're giving me advice that could possibly help me beat them someday, and that's what this sport is about, though. It's not about beating each other. It's about beating the course.
Yeah.
It's about beating the mountain.
Hmm.
It's about accomplishing things personally.
Hmm.
And so,
And of course, you've talked about the ultra community when it comes to the runners, but there's also a huge support system for the runners, from all the usually the volunteers, your crew, your friends and family support system. Talk a little about the role that they play in, seeing you guys succeed, and how important is it to you?
oh yeah, first and foremost, my family. Like, I would not be the runner I am if it wasn't for my family.
Hmm.
Specifically my wife. She is my ultimate support. She encourages me to train. She just does so much for me that I can't thank her enough. And I tell her this, constantly, like, hey, babe, I'm so thankful for what you do for me, because I'm a professional athlete, because of her. She's the one that encouraged me to try to make this work as a professional athlete, because after college I was going to go to medical school and just forego running, because I didn't think it was possible to become a professional runner and get paid to do it. But she was like, you know, I know what your dreams are, and I know your dreams are to become a professional athlete. She's like, give it a year, give it a year, try it out. She's like, if we're broke and we have no money, I don't care. She's just like, as long as you're going after your dreams and you're trying to do what I know that you want to do. She's like, that's all that means to me, or
Hmm.
that's everything to me. And so I did, and it ended up working out. And so if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't even be here. My parents support me. My brother he's always out there crewing me in races. People might met him out on races because he's always the one out crewing me. I have a great support system at home that helps me, but also the volunteers, the race directors, the all of these people that really strive to, you know, just help us. It's amazing to see all the support out there, and I'm very grateful for all those people that I've been associated with over the last few years.
And now, speaking of a different kind of support, sponsorship. You are a Hoka One One, athlete, and you have a few other sponsorships
Not
as well.
anymore.
Not
I
anymore.
switched.
Oh, you
I'm
switched.
with Ultra now.
Ultra.
Yeah.
Well, let's just talk about sponsorships in general, because you have more than just one sponsor as well, I believe. How does sponsorship play a role in an athlete's life, especially when someone's starting out to get a big sponsorship? How does it free you up, and how does it aid you, and how
Yeah.
important is it?
I mean, it's it's like I said, it's everything. Like, if I don't have support from Ultra and these other sponsors that I have, I can't train like I need to train.
Hmm.
They not only provide gear, but they provide freedom for me to be able to train like I need to train. By aiding with financial support and travel money and different things like that. You know, they not only do that, but they also involve us in the companies, and they help us. They let us do product development and different things like that really help us to be able to um, accomplish our goals. Because if we don't have the right shoe, or if we don't have new shoes to train in, we're going to get injured, or we're not going to be able to run as fast as we need to run. But these companies are so involved in helping us and becoming the athletes that we need to be. And Ultra does an amazing job at that. I've been with them for a month now. I actually switched in January from Hoka to Ultra. I was with Ultra for 2 years, and now I switched over or with Hoka for 2 years, and now I switched over to Ultra. And I'm so happy with the transition that I've made. Um, I love the product. That's the first and foremost thing. The reason I switched was the product. It helps me to be the runner that I know I need to be. It's helped me improve my form. It's helped me stay injury free, having these products from Ultra. And, like I said, I can't accomplish anything as a runner if it's not for my gear and, and the products that I receive from the company.
Let's talk a little bit more about the gear, because the sport has come such a long way just in the past decade when it comes to gear and development of gear. And of course, amazing athletes like you have a huge role to play in it, because you are involved in product development, and you're the guinea pigs in many ways for certain things, and you fine tune things. So talk to us about some of the gears that you really enjoy working with, and how they have changed your game up.
Yeah, so recently, like I said, with Ultra, I have started using their trail shoes and their road shoes. The shoes that I've so far really fallen in love with is I love the Superior. Ultra just came out with the Superior 4. It's an amazing shoe. I actually did a workout in it today, and I love it. They also have the Lone Peak that I've been really using a lot and loving. And then a couple of road shoes that I really enjoy are the Duo, and then the Torin are both great shoes that I work with that I've been using. Ultra, they're a zero drop shoe, and so that was a little bit of a transition from me. I never ran in zero drop before, but that was one thing that helped me help me make the decision to switch to this company. Was I started testing the shoes, and I fell in love with that concept because it brought me more up on my toes, and it helped me get into my proper running form, which alleviated some pains and some injuries that I had been dealing with. It also helped me produce more power, I felt like. So I was running faster times than I'd ever ran before. There is a transition phase. I had to take 3-4 weeks to kind of transition into the shoe. My calves were a little tight, but I was careful with that. And now my legs they've never felt better. I don't feel no soreness. They feel fresher than they've ever felt before when I go out there and run. And it's just been amazing. So yeah, the Ultra's been amazing company so far to work with. And I also am sponsored by Nathan. And Nathan, I've been using the Vapor Krar pack. I love that pack. It's got everything I need in it. The capacity is perfect. The 4-liter one is the one I use, and it helps me to stay hydrated, in my races, and that's definitely a crucial part of ultra marathon, is making sure that you're fueling properly. I also am sponsored by a company called Unived, and Unived Sports. They're based out of India. They're a nutrition company, and also they started making socks. The socks are amazing. I just started using them. They have compression, and so they actually keep your feet like fresh for the entire run. I've had no blisters in the socks, and so they've been an amazing product. Check them out. If you're looking for a good pair of socks, the Unived Sports socks are awesome. And the nutrition, I've been working with this company a lot lately, and we're developing a product that is going to be amazing. I'm testing it out in Trans Gran Canaria. It's a drink mix and a gel line that is going to provide more carbohydrates and really help runners get through, their ultra marathons better, with less stomach issues. And it's a vegan product, so it's very healthy. As healthy as a gel can be, I guess you'd say. And then I'm also sponsored by Coros Global. It's a new watch company. Their watches have been awesome. They download straight, into the app so quickly. The watches are accurate, and I've been loving working with them. And I'm actually going out to China to do a race with Coros. And we're going to, we've been talking about product and development. So yeah, I have amazing companies that I work with. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be in the situation I am now. And I can't thank them enough for all that they've done for me. If you have any more questions about any of my sponsors, feel free to reach out to me, because I will just talk your ear off about them, because I'm really grateful and I'm really happy with all the products that I'm using right now.
That's so wonderful to hear, because that is something, when there are athletes of your caliber out there, you should be getting the support, and you should be having an input as far as, where the future of these products and development of those products. So you talked about nutrition as far as the gels are concerned. So, but let's talk about your personal nutrition philosophy, because even in the sport of ultra, everybody comes from a different school of thought, and it's also a lot has to do with what works for them. What nutrition works for you?
Yeah, what I mean, I've tested a lot over the last few years, just to see, I've tried taking just food in a race, I've tried just taking water or drink mix and all these different things. And what I found out that works for me is I actually talked to Jeff Browning
Mhm.
um, a lot about what he does, because I feel like he's a good person to talk to. He's been doing this for years, and he seems to get through 100-mile races like really well. And he's the king of 100-mile races right now, I would say. And so, yeah, he was talking about how he takes a drink mix, you know, and his drink mix, he sips on it throughout the race, just little sips at a time. And, and this provides, those carbohydrates and his electrolytes and everything that he needs there. Then he'll take a gel, he'll do gels every now and then he does fruit at aid stations. And those are the three things that he does. And, I know Carl Meltzer has said numerous times that all you need is, fruit and gels pretty
Yes.
much. And so I tested this out because I'm like, hey, these guys are like the best 100-milers ever. Why don't I test it out? And so, yeah, that's what I've been doing is I sip on drink mix throughout the race, the drink mix from Unived, and it provides the carbohydrates, electrolytes, and some caffeine as well. And so I sip on that throughout the race. And then I do one of those an hour, one drink mix an hour. I do one gel an hour. And so between the drink mix and the gel that I've been using recently, it provides the carbohydrates that I need. And then I take fruit at aid stations. And, and then I take salt caps, in the race to provide some extra electrolytes and prevent cramping. But that's about it. Drink mix, gels, fruit, and salt caps. If my body is not responding to that and it's maybe craving something at an aid station, then I might, grab a little something here, grab a little something there, maybe some Coke or some water or whatever. I try to listen to my body as much as possible because I feel like my body will tell me what it needs. I think that's a crucial part is you need to listen to your body because your body's going to tell you if it needs salt or if it needs carbohydrates or what it needs. And then, listen and do what it tells you to do. But yeah, that's my nutrition is very, very simple. It's very easy and it seems to work great for me. And, recently I've been focusing a lot more on nutrition because the first part of my career, I did not focus on nutrition at all. I haven't told a lot of people this, but at CCC, people think I'm lying when I say this. I only drank 24 ounces of water the entire race. So 2 tiny 12-ounce bottles of water and had 4 gels the entire race. And that's it. And I made it through the whole entire race. And people are like, that's crazy. Like, there's no way. And yeah, like I did. But recently I've been focusing a little bit more on nutrition and it seems like I'm running even better. So I think nutrition is very important. But that being said, I've always kind of been a minimalist when it comes to nutrition, but I'm trying to focus and work on that.
Well, we are excited. We're definitely excited to see, what else comes as far as that is concerned with your gels. You're still very young, and this sport has a long life. There are elites that are, much, much, much older than you. So you have a long future in this sport. So if I was to ask you to predict, what direction do you think the sport of ultramarathon is going in, and do you like it?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I think faster and faster guys are coming into the sport, and I think it's just going to continue to get faster and faster and faster. I come from a speed background, and so it's good for me, you know, and I like the competition. You know, I like that there's faster guys coming in, and it providing more and more challenges. You know, course records are going down like every single race, it seems like.
Broken by women. Women are breaking records.
Yeah, exactly. You
Yeah.
know, faster women and men. You know, it's been amazing to see how you know the sport is growing. I think it's good for the sport. You know, I think it's just going to get bigger. You know, and you know, some people might not like that. You know, because they kind of like the you know the low profile of ultra marathon, but it's just inevitable. It's going to grow. You know, people are gravitating towards the mountains, towards the trails. They're loving the sport, and I think that's a good thing because it's providing more health, and you know, it's getting people into this wonderful world that we live in, which is a good thing. And you know, that being said, it's going to probably you know bring more money into the sport, you know, and more money is going to provide for the athletes. But that being said, it might also bring more, you know, doping in the sport, you know, or different things like that. But I think if we can make sure that we are, you know, striving to promote a clean sport, you know, if we're striving to, you know, make the transitions that need to happen as the sport grows, we're going to be just fine, you know, and it's going to be an amazing thing to see, you know, and it's already awesome to see so many races popping up all around the world, you know, where you can run anywhere in this world pretty much now. And, you know, it's a really cool thing to see. And I say, you know, bring on the African, you know, the East African runners. You know, people are nervous about East Africans and stuff coming into the sport, but I say bring it on. You know, we want the fastest guys in the world in this sport because we want to show people, you know, how strong and how fast we truly are. And that, you know, I'm definitely one to not back down from a challenge. You know, I want to be in the fastest races. I want to be with the fastest guys. I want to be breaking course records, you know, and it might sound a little arrogant, but that's what that's what I train for. That's what I train so hard for, you know, and I want to take risks, you know, go after world records, you know, go after big wins at Western and UTMB and strive to do things like break 14 hours at Western States or whatever it is, you know. And I think it's good for the sport, you know, that there's people coming into the sport that want to do these things.
So obviously, as the sport grows, it's an amazing thing, like you said, for the athletes because they get more support and they can focus on the game, and of course it introduces more people to this amazing world of ultra marathons. But also then we have the question of conservation, wildlife, like the environment. Where do you think the responsibility to make sure that we don't damage the playing ground that we are playing in, how important do you think it is for the athletes to take that cause on and to do something about it?
Oh, very, very important. You know, we just need to educate people. You know, that's what's the most important thing. I think Claire Gallagher, you know, she's a good friend of mine. She does an amazing job at this. You know, she's always posting on her social media and educating people. You know, not just saying like, oh, you know, we need to, you know, do this or do this, but she says how we can do it. You know, and she gives people, you know, links to things that they can go to call a senator or you know, do this or do that or do. And I think that's amazing. Is we need to truly educate people, because yeah, the more people that come into the sport, the you know, I guess that it could go two ways, you know, because more people can bring power. You know, if you educate them properly, the more voices we have, the more power we have. But if those people aren't educated properly, then it could go the opposite way, and it could cause a lot of destruction, you know, and different things like that in our wildlife. But I think as athletes, we need to be proactive in educating people, you know, and helping to promote this, I guess, the protection of our lands and our wildlife, and striving to do the best that we can, because we have a lot of influence, we on social media and everywhere we go. And you can always throw in little tidbits here and there to help people just think about things.
Mm-hmm.
And then those people will go and educate themselves by researching. And but if you're always striving to just little by little, throw in some things here and there, I think that's what we need to do.
Yeah. It's not just about talking, going on and on about the problem. It's also about the solutions and how to fix things. Yes. So a more comprehensive outlook.
And we have a lot of good, companies and races and stuff that are trying to be proactive in this. This weekend, the Rufa race, running up for air, is happening here in Utah, in the Salt Lake Valley, educating people about the pollution issue in the Salt Lake Valley and raising money to help clean the air up. And, they've already made a huge impact on Utah. They've talked with the governor, and the governor has talked about, putting money towards helping clean the air in the Salt Lake Valley. And so it's happening, it's happening little by little. And I think as us athletes, race directors and, brands band together to really help this situation, we can do a lot of good.
Yes. So those are really powerful and meaningful words, because it's important to not lose hope and to know that things are being done. And as long as amazing athletes like you are on the side of the cause, it's looking up. So finally, Hayden, any final words? First of all, tell us, what can we look forward to from you in 2019, and how do we keep track of you?
Yeah, best way to keep track of me, I guess, is my social media on Instagram. It's Hawks_Hayden11. You can follow me there on Instagram, and I usually keep it pretty well up to date and help people, see what, as they can follow along with my story, the travels that I do with my family, the different races that I'm running around the world. It's a great avenue to see that. On Facebook as well, you can follow me. I keep that up to date as well. But yeah, looking forward, I'm really excited for my schedule this year. I'm going to hopefully have a great 2019. I'm very, very fit right now, actually. I think I'm fitter than I've ever been before, actually. I had an amazing training camp over in Gran Canaria the whole month of January. Now I'm back home training at altitude, and I just feel so good. Like everything's kind of playing out perfectly. I've had a good mix of speed, with mountain training, and it's been perfect. So yeah, first race is Trans Gran Canaria on February 22nd, 128-kilometer race out in Spain. I'll be running that. It's part of the Ultra Trail World Tour, one of the bigger races. And then I'm going to China in April to run an 80K out there in China. I've never been to China, and I always wanted to go and see what it's like. It's growing tremendously, the sport is in China, so I want to be involved in that. And then I'm running Broken Arrow Sky Race out in California in June, and that'll help prepare me for the ultimate goal, which is UTMB in August. I'm trying to become the first American male to win UTMB, and that's been it's like an obsession for me now, to try to be that guy that wins UTMB. And I had a great year last year, training out there in the Alps, and I think I'm prepared. If I can feel how I'm feeling now leading into UTMB, it's going to be a good day. And hopefully between Trans Gran Canaria and UTMB, I can hopefully win the Ultra Trail World Tour, which has been a goal of mine. I hope to do well at all these races. And then my final race of the year is I'm actually going to run Desert Solstice in December out in Phoenix. And I'm going to try to go after the world record in the 100-mile on the track. I think a Russian athlete holds it right now, and I'm going to try to bring that record to the U.S. and get the world record. So yeah, I kind of have a mix of some flat stuff, some mountain stuff. I really want to diversify myself as a runner and go after big accomplishments and go after things that I've always dreamed of going after.
Out of flat or mountains, which terrain is your favorite?
It's hard. It's hard for me because I come from a speed background. I love the mountains though, and I've done really well in mountain races. So I don't know. It's like 50-50, really. Like that's why I like to mix it up, you know, do some flat stuff, but also do some mountain stuff. And I think that's what makes uh, you know, you a really good ultra marathoner is if you can do both. You know,
Why
I
choose
really
when
look,
you don't have to?
yeah, I really look up to the athletes that not only can go crush a mountain race, but they can crush a flat race as well. You know, it's really cool to see. And you know, next year will probably be more of a flat year, and then I don't know, maybe the next year will be a mountain year. I kind of want to, you know, mix it up and do some flat years, some mountain years, and just really go after all those dreams and goals that I've had.
Well, Hayden, thank you so much for giving us your time. We really wish you the very best. We hope to see you carrying the American flag across the finish line in UTMB and actually all the races. Why not? So we wish you the very best and thank you so much for giving us your time. And we'll definitely at IRUN4ULTRA keep track of you. And we'll also put all your social media handles in all the description so people can find you easily.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Take care.
Yes. Yeah.